My parents disowned me for marrying below their standards, so I built my own empire, and now they want a piece of what they rejected. I'm a 27-year-old man, and I was raised to believe that love had a price, and that price was status. In my family, success wasn't measured by happiness or decency. It was measured by titles, money, and bloodlines. My parents are first-generation immigrants who built their lives around appearances. Every dinner conversation was about someone's career, who married into which family, and who lowered their worth by choosing wrong. I used to think it was normal to see love as a transaction. When I met Leah, all of that conditioning started to unravel. She wasn't rich, didn't have a fancy degree, and didn't pretend to be something she wasn't. She worked double shifts at a small diner to pay for nursing school. I met her one late night when I stopped in. After work, she handed me coffee with a tired smile and said, "Rough day." It was such a small thing, but no one had asked me that in years. Without expecting something in return, we started talking more. She listened, she laughed easily, and she made me feel seen in a way that my entire world of expectations never did. I'd find excuses to visit sometimes just to hear her talk about her patients or her dreams of opening a free clinic one day. By the time I realized I was in love, I already knew my family would never approve. The first time I told my mother about Leah, she froze mid-bite at dinner. "A waitress?" she asked, her voice sharp as glass. "You can't be serious." My father didn't even look up from his plate when he muttered, "If you go down that road, don't expect us to stand by you." That was the night I realized something terrifying: love, in my family, wasn't about who made you happy. It was about who looked good beside you. And for the first time in my life, I wanted to choose differently. When I told my parents I wasn't backing down, that I was still seeing Leotha, silence in the room was deafening. My mother pressed her fingers to her temples like I'd confessed to a crime. "You're throwing your future away," she said quietly. My father didn't argue. He just said, "Then you're no longer our son," and walked out. No shouting, no discussion, just a final verdict. Like a door slamming shut, I kept waiting for someone to call me the next day. My mom, maybe even if it was just to guilt-trip me, but nothing came. Days turned into weeks, and the silence became a wall I couldn't climb. My sister stopped texting me. My uncles and aunts, people I'd grown up with, followed me on social media. It was like I died to them. Leah saw the toll it was taking on me. One night I came home and just sat on the floor. She knelt beside me and whispered, "If this is too much, I'll understand." But it wasn't too much. It was everything. Because for the first time, I was choosing someone for how they made me feel, not how they made me look. We got married at the courthouse on a rainy Thursday. No flowers, no guests, no family. Just us, 2 borrowed umbrellas, and a witness the clerk pulled from the hallway. Leah wore a pale blue dress and nervous joy on her face. I kept glancing at the empty seats, wondering if my mom would come rushing in, tears in her eyes, saying she changed her mind. She didn't. Neither did anyone else. And that's how my new life started. Not with celebration, but with silence. And silence has a way of making you wonder if you made the right choice. When I silently wasn't going to break up with Leah, the silence from my parents was deafening. My mother didn't speak to me for days. My father would only grunt or nod like I was some unwelcome stranger renting space in their home. And when they finally did talk, it wasn't a conversation. It was an ultimatum. "We didn't raise you for this," my mother snapped, arms folded like a gate I'd never be allowed past again. "You have one chance to fix this before it ruins everything." I asked her what exactly I was ruining. "Our name," she said coldly. "Our reputation. Your future. Do you think doctors' families will let you into their circles with a waitress on your arm?" I tried to reason with them. Tried to tell them Leah wasn't just some job title. She was brilliant. She was kind. She understood me in ways no one else had. My father didn't care. "If you marry that girl," he said, without even looking at me, "then from this moment on, you are not our son." Those words didn't hit right away. They hovered over me like a thundercloud, waiting. I went home that night and told Leah everything. She cried, of course she did, but not for herself. "I don't want to come between you and your family," she whispered. But she wasn't coming between us. They were building a wall and daring me to cross it. We got married in a small civil ceremony 6 weeks later. Just a courthouse, a plain ring, and the 2 of us standing in front of a judge with shaking hands. My best friend stood in as witness. My parents didn't show. My siblings didn't reply. From that day forward, I wasn't just cut off, I was erased. But even as I stood beside the woman I loved, I couldn't ignore the ache in my chest. Was I really ready to live without a family? The first year of our marriage felt like love in survival mode. Leah and I lived in a tiny studio apartment that smelled like old carpet and peeling paint. The kitchen sink leaked, the heater clanked all night like it was coughing up its last breath, and our mattress sat directly on the floor. We joked about it sometimes, called it our humble empire. But deep down, it stung. I was working warehouse shifts, unloading boxes in the freezing cold while trying not to think about the degree I'd earned that now felt pointless. Leah was pulling night shifts and clinical rotations, always exhausted, always on her feet. We barely saw each other awake. But even in those fleeting moments over instant noodles or shared silence, we still held on to each other. What I didn't expect was how heavy the loneliness would feel. Every holiday was a fresh wound. I'd scroll through social media and see my parents throwing lavish dinners, surrounded by cousins, aunts, and siblings all laughing, all pretending I never existed. When my younger sister got engaged, no one told me. I only found out when a distant family friend accidentally mentioned it at the grocery store. There were nights I couldn't sleep, just lay there staring at the ceiling, asking myself if love was supposed to hurt this much. And Leah, sensing my unrest, would hold my hand and whisper, "We'll get through this. I believe in us." But I started questioning everything. My self-worth, my decisions, my future. I had no support system, no backup plan, just Leah, and the echo of a family that had chosen pride over me. I thought choosing love would feel like freedom. Instead, it felt like standing in the cold, with every bridge behind me burned to ashdot, and the worst part, we were just getting started. It started with a single, patient and elderly man named Mr. Dorsey. Leah had been assigned to his home care rotation, helping with his meds and daily tasks. He was grumpy and stubborn, the kind of man who barked more than he spoke. But Leah, she saw past all that. Within weeks, she had him laughing. She brought him crossword books, listened to his war stories, even made his favorite soup on her day off. One night, Leah came home beaming. "You know what Mr. Dorsey said to me today?" she asked, dropping her bag by the door. "He said I reminded him of someone who actually gives a damn. It hit me there were thousands of people like him, alone, needing care, needing someone like Leah." That's when the idea first planted itself in my mind. What if we created something together, something real, not just for money, but to serve the people no one else bothered with? I pitched it to her over dinner, half joking at first. What if we started our own home care service? She blinked, surprised, then smiled. "Care Nest," she said, "a place where people feel safe, like they matter." It felt impossible, but something about it lit a fire in both of us. We spent every spare moment sketching it out on napkins, notebooks, and whiteboards we found in the discount aisle. We talked to her professors, asked questions, researched licenses. I applied for a personal loan, $20,000 at an outrageous interest rate. It was everything we had. Everyone thought we were crazy. "You don't have the background," they said. "You need investors, a team." But what we had was heart, grit, and nothing left to lose. We got our first client, a lonely widow who needed help bathing and cooking. Leah cried in the car after that visit, not from stress, but because for the first time since we were cut off, something finally felt right. The early days of Care Nest were a chaotic mess of phone calls, paperwork, and long drives to clients' homes. We didn't have an office, just a second-hand laptop, a prepaid phone, and a binder full of notes. Leah handled care plans and scheduling, while I did admin, driving, and everything else that fell through the cracks. Some weeks we barely slept. Some weeks we didn't even pay ourselves. But we kept going. Our clients came mostly from word-of-mouth neighbors, church friends, and nurses who remembered Leah's compassion. We weren't some polished agency, but people trusted us because we showed up. We listened. We cared. That was our edge. 6 months in, we had 10 clients and were finally breaking even. I'll never forget the night I looked at our spreadsheet and realized we could pay rent early. I brought Leah a cheap bottle of champagne, and we celebrated by watching a movie on our tiny couch. Still in our uniforms, smelling like sweat and antiseptic. Then came the moment that changed everything. A hospital caseworker called us out of the blue. One of our clients had nominated us for a local elder care spotlight, and suddenly we were being featured on a regional health blog. That one article doubled our calls in a week. We scrambled to hire 2 more people. Leah had gone to school with Anne for the first time. We started dreaming bigger. We upgraded our apartment, got a second car, even went on a 2-day vacation, our first since getting married. But none of that erased the silence from my family. When my sister's wedding came and went without an invitation, it stung more than I wanted to admit. And when my cousin posted a family photo captioned "Everyone who matters," I stared at it for way too long. We were building something beautiful. But no matter how far we climbed, the weight of being unwanted never really let go. 3 years in, Kernest wasn't just a small operation. Anymore, it had grown into something real. We had a dozen full-time employees, a small office space, and contracts with 2 regional hospitals. We weren't millionaires, but we were stable, respected, and everything we had. We built from nothing. Then came the call that changed everything. A journalist from a local business magazine reached out. They were doing a feature on healthcare entrepreneurs under 30, and someone had recommended us. I laughed at first. I didn't think we were big enough to matter. But Leah insisted. "Tell them the truth," she said. "They need to hear what this took." The article dropped a month later. There we were, our photo, right at the top, smiling in front of the Kernest sign. The piece painted us as a power couple who turned personal struggle into purpose. It felt surreal. And then it felt dangerous, because 3 days after that article published, I got a text from a number I hadn't seen in years. "We saw the article. We're proud of you. Can we talk?" It was my mother. I froze. My heart hammered in my chest like I was 17 again, waiting to be scolded. I showed the message to Leah, and she just stared at it for a long time before saying, "Why now?" I didn't have an answer. The next day, my father emailed me. Formal, short. He congratulated me on my business maturity and said he always believed I had potential. We'd love to reconnect soon. He ended with, "Not a word about Leah, not a word about the years they erased me." For a split second, I wondered, was this forgiveness? Regret? But Leah saw it for what it really was. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "They didn't come back for you. They came for what you built." I agreed to meet them. Against Leah's instincts, against the knot in my gutsy, said yes. A part of me still craved some version of home, or closure, or even just acknowledgement that I existed outside of failure. We met at an upscale restaurant my parents used to frequent back when I was still their son. The moment I walked in, I was hit with the same old scent of polished wood, expensive perfume, and cold judgment. They were already seated, my father in a suit, my mother in pearls. It felt less like a family reunion and more like a job interview. They smiled. They complimented my haircut. They asked vague, surface-level questions about the business. "We read that you're in 3 cities now," my father said, swirling his wine. "That's impressive." For a moment, I felt 13 again, desperate for their approval. But then I remembered who wasn't sitting at that table. "Leah, we think it's time you came back into the fold. You've proven yourself, and with our help, you could take this company even further." My father leaned forward. "There are opportunities we could open up for you. Contacts, capital, guidance." It was subtle, but unmistakable. This wasn't about family. This was about ownership. I asked them what changed. My mother shrugged. "We never stopped loving you. We just didn't want you to throw your life away on someone beneath you. But look at what you've done." Despite that, that's how they saw her. Still, after everything, I left the restaurant that night with their business card in my pocket and a pit in my stomach, because the truth was becoming clearer by the minute. They didn't want me back. They wanted a seat at my table. A week later, I received an invitation to a family dinner. My aunt was hosting a belated birthday party for my father, and apparently, I was encouraged to attend. It felt surreal after 5 years of being ghosted. Suddenly, I was being folded back into the family like nothing happened. I told Leah, and her face went still. "Are you going to bring me?" she asked quietly. "Of course," I said, but in my chest, something twisted. I wasn't sure if it was dread or guilt. The dinner was in a huge rented hall-white tablecloths, chandeliers, name cards, everything staged like a political fundraiser. Everyone was there. Cousins, uncles, family, friends. Some hadn't seen me since before I got married. They clapped me on the back, offered fake smiles, and told me how proud they were. But when Leah walked in beside me, the entire room shifted. Conversations paused. My mother's eyes narrowed, her smile stiffened. My father gave her the briefest nod, and then turned away. No one approached her. No one greeted her. They acted like she was invisible. We sat through dinner in awkward silence, with my parents giving speeches about legacy, discipline, and preserving values. At one point, my uncle even said, "Imagine what you could have done sooner if you'd listened." I looked at Leah, her posture straight, her chin high, but I could see it in her eyes. She didn't belong in this room. Not because she wasn't good enough, but because these people had already decided she wasn't allowed to be on the ride home. She stared out the window and said, "I thought maybe they'd changed." I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say, because somewhere deep down, I think I'd hoped for that too. 2 days after the dinner, my father called me. No pleasantries, just straight to the point. "We'd like to make a formal offer," he said. I was still groggy, sitting at the edge of my bed. "An offer for what?" "For Kernest," he replied. "A minority investment, 40%. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. "You want to buy into our company? It's not just money," he said, calm and controlled. "It's legacy. We can help scale you, introduce you to decision makers, clean up the brand image. You're a smart boy, but you're still green." That word, brand image, what exactly needs cleaning up? I asked, already knowing the answer. He hesitated, then said it. "You've built something promising, but it's attached to the wrong narrative. Investors care about perception, optics, and frankly, a company founded by a man who turned his back on his family for a waitress doesn't exactly inspire confidence." I felt like someone had slapped me. "You're still embarrassed by her," I said quietly. "After everything. After she held my hand when I had nothing. After she worked overnight shifts to keep our lights on. After she gave her life to building this. You still think she's a stain?" "Don't be emotional," he snapped. "This is business." That night, I sat across from Leah at our kitchen table and told her everything. I watched her face as the words landed, each one like a slow cut. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just nodded, got up, and walked into the bedroom. When she came back, she had a manila folder in her hands. Inside was the original Kernest deed. Her name was right next to mine. She placed it in front of me and said softly, "You don't have to fight them. Just choose US or them, but you don't get to have both." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room long after Leah had gone to bed, staring at that folder like it held the weight of the world. My mind spiraled. What if they were right? What if I was being emotional, impulsive, small-minded? 40% of Kernest, with backing from powerful investors, could mean national expansion, influence, security, but at what cost? I remembered the way my mother looked through Leah like she was furniture. The way my father spoke about her as if she was a mistake that needed to be cleaned up. Still, the voices crept in. "You need them. You've taken this as far as you can." By 4 a.m., I was sitting in front of my laptop, drafting a resignation letter. I was going to sell them the company. Step aside. Let them reshape it. But then, I opened our first Kernest client file, Mr. Dorsey, and I remembered Leah spoon-feeding him soup, kneeling by his chair when he was too weak to move, holding his hand when his daughter didn't show up for Christmas. Then I opened the second file, and the third, page after page of notes Leah had written by hand-tracking dosages, logging emotional shifts, leaving personal reminders like, "Bring crossword puzzle, he lights up when he sees it." That's when I broke. I put my face in my hands and just wept. We hadn't built a business. We had built trust, something no amount of investment could fabricate. And I had almost thrown it all away for the approval of people who saw love as a liability. That morning, Leah found me asleep on the couch, the manila folder still resting on my lap. She knelt beside me and whispered, "Whatever you choose, just don't lose yourself doing it." And in that moment, I finally knew what had to be done. I didn't call them. I didn't schedule a meeting. I wrote an email, a single, clear, final message one I rewrote 5 times before I hit send. The subject line was simple. "Regarding your offer, you disowned me when I had nothing. When I chose love over status, you cut me off like I was an embarrassment. You didn't call when I was broke. You didn't call when I was struggling. You didn't call when I got married or when I built something from scratch with a woman you still refused to acknowledge. You only called when I became something you could use. CareNest was built in the dark without your help, without your approval, and without your money. Leah and I built it with sleepless nights, overdrafted accounts, and stubborn hope. And you don't get to come back now and claim it like some inheritance that was always yours. We don't need your guidance. We don't need your investment. And most of all, we don't need your version of legacy. This is goodbye. For good. I hit send. And then I blocked their numbers, deleted the WhatsApp family group, and removed myself from every email chain, contact list, and family thread I'd ever been part of. That afternoon, I went home and found Leah on the porch, sipping tea, watching the clouds roll in. I sat beside her and told her everything. She didn't say a word at first, just reached out, took my hand, and squeezed it. Then she whispered, "I knew you'd come back to us." We didn't cry. We didn't celebrate. We just sat there in quiet understanding. I had finally stopped chasing people who only saw my worth when it served them, and in that still moment, for the first time in years, I finally felt free. 3 years have passed since I sent that email. Not once have my parents reached out since. Not a birthday text. Not a call. Not even a passive-aggressive forward from a cousin. And I'm okay with that. CareNest is now operating in 7 cities. We've opened a training center for new caregivers and launched a nonprofit arm that provides free home visits for low-income elders. Leah oversees all community outreach. I handle growth and strategy. Together, we've built something stronger than I ever imagined, an actual legacy. Last year, Leah and I had a daughter. Her name is Amara, which means grace. And holding her for the first time made everything else, every betrayal, every sleepless night, every slammed door feel like part of the journey that brought us to her. We take Amara to the park every Sunday. We teach her to be kind, not proud. To lead with compassion, not ego. To see worth in people beyond what they wear or how they speak. Sometimes I wonder what my parents would think if they saw her, this beautiful, laughing, fiercely curious child. They'll never know. But then I remind myself, they had the chance to be part of this. They chose silence. They chose pride. They chose to measure value in titles and shame. While we were out here building joy from scratch, a few weeks ago, I got a letter not from them, but from the son of a woman we once cared for. She'd passed peacefully in her sleep. In the envelope was a thank you card, with one line that broke me in the best way. "You gave my mom dignity when everyone else had forgotten her." Is my legacy, not money, not bloodlines, not approval, but grace. And if anyone ever asks how I made peace with what I lost, I'll tell them this. Peace didn't come from going back. It came from building something worth staying for.